Okay, listen up, family twisters. Imagine learning that your biological family, your mother, your siblings, your entire bloodline, has been living just towns away from you for decades.
Today's episode has everything. Secrets hidden for generations, ghost-level recon at a wedding, chance encounters at haunted mansions, and one daughter's relentless pursuit to give her mother the one thing she always deserved, acknowledgement.
Nicole is the self-proclaimed family detective, and when her mom, Mary Ellen, who was adopted in 1952, finally decided to seek the truth, Nicole put on her trench coat and started digging. What she found, you will not believe.
This is about more than just finding names. It's about identity, health, heartbreak, and hope. And of course, it wouldn't be Family Twist without a few jaw-dropping coincidences that will leave you wondering if the universe was trying to connect these dots all along.
So buckle up, because this emotional roller coaster includes mysterious letters, surprise siblings, a maybe dad, an obituary clue trail, and a DNA bombshell just waiting to go off.
We are so honored to welcome Mary Ellen and Nicole to the show. This story, it's personal, it's raw, and it's real. Let's get into it.
Mary Ellen and Nicole, welcome to the Family Twist podcast.
Hi.
Hello, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Now, Mary Ellen, you were adopted in 1952, correct?
Correct.
Did you always know you were adopted?
No, it took a while because my parents who adopted me were older. So I want to say it was probably around teenage years when they, kind of told me. But at that point, I really didn't have any kind of urge or anything like that until I got much, much older. And they were great. They were great parents. I mean, they gave me everything. I can't say it was a bad life because it wasn't.
Right. Okay. So was there an aha moment that made you realize, boy, I want to see if I can find my birth family?
Yeah. My parents, my mother was probably by the age of, early 60s. She started getting Alzheimer's. And so, my dad took care of her and everything. And I had mentioned to him one time about, I was really curious about, trying to maybe find my real mother and things. And he got really angry because, again, they were older and they were super fantastic. They loved me to death, but I didn't want to hurt them, so I had to wait. So unfortunately, he passed away, and then 9 months later, she passed away.
Wow.
So then this one here starts the ball rolling.
Yeah, my detective hat comes on, and my mom's just been through a lot. She had wonderful parents. Her parents were my parents. Single mom, remarried a few years after having me, and they took care of me. I mean, they were the salt of the earth. If I had two sets of parents on this planet, it would have been them and my mom and my stepdad now, of course, but good souls. And the long and short of it is, my mom's been through some things. Like in her mid-40s, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and luckily, because she takes such great care of herself, as you can see, they caught it so quickly. She had surgery, never had to have treatment. Like, it's a very, very fortunate story. It's a very lucky story, and just something that doesn't always happen. So
it freaked her out because she was getting married that year.
Yeah, I was getting married in 3 months after she was diagnosed. So I'm like, okay, she's going to die. I'm not going to have a mom. So I like to go to DEFCON 5 with her. That's how I roll. But she and I started talking about it, and then we started talking about the health side of being adopted, and we have no help. Anything that's wrong with me never came from her, and anything that she has, we don't know. No. So it's like we have no generational anything, right? So then after she went through that, I got married. The years went on, and then she just started soul searching after having breast cancer, and which I don't blame her. And then I said, if you really want to find your family, we should try to find your family. We need to know family history. We need to know, we need to know where you come from. So one day I was at work. I had worked in commercial real estate at the time, and I was doing research, and I just started digging. I just had this like wild hair that I had to start digging. And so I started looking up, we started talking about it actually, and somehow I figured out what the birth name was. I don't know. But then we found a gentleman who was a private investigator. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
That started it. We hired this guy that we knew who was a retired police officer for Chicago, and he got into the nitty-gritty, gave us all the information, and was like, here you go. And so I got the birth name. I started Googling it. I found an obit. And then I went down that road with the obit, which was, we don't know if it's really her dad or not. But it was, technically it would be her father, right? So I found that. And then, of course, when you find an obit, then you find all the family. And then it just exploded from there.
Yeah.
Social media was obviously so helpful. And I told her, I'm like, I'm about to go down this road. Are you on board or what? And she was like, okay. And so I just started finding family members one by one. And it was funny because the first family member I found was her doppelganger. Like one day I pulled up Facebook and I found her sister, and I went, and I showed it to my husband, and he's like, why show me a picture of your mom? And I'm like, that is not my mother. That is her sister. And he was like, that is your mom when I met you, 20 years ago. That's your mother. And I said, I know. And so in the process of this, I had put everything on an adoption website in Chicago. And someone anonymously reached out to me and said, I think I have some information about this. And I thought, all right, this is fine. Let's meet in a public place because you could be a serial killer. I could be a serial killer. She doesn't know. And so we met in a public place, and she kind of just gave me the lowdown of the family, how she knew about this. My mother's mother basically was a teenage mother, which she was too, a teenage mom, and it was shameful back when she was pregnant with my mom. So, of course, Italian family, they took her and they stuck her in an unwed mother's home to have the baby. And that was kind of how, my mom came about. But we also found out that she kept that secret with her sister. Obviously, her parents knew, but she kept that secret from her entire family other than her parents and her sister. When she died and they cleaned out the house, they found it. And they were like, what the hell is this? Who is this? And what?
Somebody tried to keep it very, very hidden, and we'll probably never know why.
We have no idea. But the story that we were told was that she came from a very strict Italian family, and they think that she had the love of her life boyfriend, and that's how she got pregnant with my mom. Because then, 3 years later, she went on to have 6 other children. So we don't know if the boyfriend love of the life was my mom's dad, or if the man that she went on to marry to have all these children with is my dad. And that was the man in the obituary. So everybody is, nobody seems to know. And when I say nobody, I mean the person that I met with that kind of gave me this information. She and I started forging a friendship. So, of course, we go to the wedding because I can't even help myself. And I fall in love with this girl, right, who would be maybe a second cousin of mine. We just clicked. My husband met her and said, yeah, that's you. So we met. We became friends. We went to the wedding. Obviously, I was there with my husband. My mom was not, but she was getting the play-by-play from the little girl's room by me on the phone. I met my biological grandmother. Wow. No one at this wedding knew who I was, where I came from, nothing. I was like a ghost in the room, absorbing all the fun and getting all the deets. I approached my mom's sister, this girl who got married, told me that I looked exactly like. And I approached her and I said, they're like, oh, how do you know the bride and the groom? And I said, oh, the bride's a friend of mine. We used to work together. And she's like, oh, and so the sister and I just started talking. And she's like, oh, we have a son and we're empty nesters and we live here. And I'm like, oh, I go to this market in your town all the time. And she's like, oh my God, I love you. She's like, we should totally exchange numbers and do something sometime. And I'm thinking, lady, if you only knew. It was just, for a second I felt bad and then I didn't, because I was like, no, this is my family and this is crazy. So we just we never connected. But my friend that was the bride looked across the room and shot me the I'm going to kill you look if you tell anybody who you are, which we had an agreement I would never. But she saw me talking to my grandma and she saw me talking to my aunt and went, oh my God.
So do you have any questions?
Wow.
There's so much with this.
So
we get started.
It's just, the story has so many twists and turns. It's too good not to.
The other little thing we did was she found the address of one of my sisters who I look exactly alike.
The one that I was speaking about
And
earlier.
she's younger than me. So we drive up to the house, and I'm sitting in the car, and she goes, we got to do something. She went to the door and knocked on the door. And she goes, I think I'm lost. Could you please tell me where such and such is?
I made up some crazy story. I had a friend that's a chiropractor in the area, and I said, never been to her practice. I ended up in your neighborhood. I'm so sorry. We're lost. And she came, and it was like at 10 o'clock on a weekday, and she came to the door, and she was kind of like, this is sus. Yeah. But she was very gracious and very kind. And my mom sat in the car, and I'm like, get up here. And she was just like, I'm not doing it. I'm like, you better get up here. And so finally my mom came to the sidewalk, and I'm like, come on. And so she looked at me and she goes, here are the directions. Here's a pen. She's like, write them down. I wrote them down. And I said, I really appreciate this. This is so kind of you. And she said, no problem. Probably a couple of years later, my mom wrote a letter to her and to her mother. Every time my mom wrote, I think 2 letters to her mother and sent a picture and said, you know, I'm your daughter, blah, blah, blah. And they came back and said, I'm not your mother, and stop sending me these letters. And so, of course, she was super devastated. Then she sent a letter to that sister that we approached, who didn't know who we were. She was very hesitant. She didn't know, none of her children know this, right? Very hesitant, was like, this is a bunch of garbage, not doing this. And then all of a sudden, we find out one day she reaches out to my mom because her husband was adopted and said, you need to be doing this. If someone did this for me, I would be over the moon. And so if it weren't for her wonderful husband.
Yeah. And then we met, my husband, me, her and her husband, we met for dinner. And, you know, when they both saw me and I saw, you know, they're like, oh my God. Right. I mean, at that time I had shorter hair and she had her hair down like this. And but to know that you've got a whole lot of more brothers and sisters out there it's a great feeling, but I don't really need the connection, but I would love to just say, okay, look at me in my face. I'm yours, you're mine. We don't need to have anything else if you don't want it. Just acknowledge that I'm here. Mm-hmm. It's me.
Totally agree. You and I feel exactly the same way. I have 6 half-siblings, and I'm the oldest. And I have a great relationship with 2 of them. Okay relationships with 2 others, and really not connected to the other 2 at all. To your point, I just needed to be acknowledged. I just needed to, you know, I'm a human. You can't just ignore my existence, even just once, to say, you know, I got to meet you. I got to speak to you, you know, that sort of thing. That's all I was looking for, especially with my birth parents. And
yeah, your story was great.
Yeah, thank you.
Mary Ellen, what were you feeling when you kind of locked eyes with your sister for the first time on the sidewalk and then at that dinner? What was going on?
I mean, I was like, it's me. I have a face to put with, you know, it was crazy.
Their genes in the family are so strong. They look so much alike. It's
the youngest one too looks exactly like me too. She's got the black hair, the whole 9 yards.
I mean, the noses, like when I look at pictures of these people, I'm like, it's undoubtedly true. I mean, this is your brother. This is your sister. I mean, it's just, I was so happy when she was able to do that with her. Now, does that woman know that we did what we did and who we are because we looked? No, she doesn't. She would never put the name to the face. She would just never connect the 2. But we don't want to destroy this family if this is a secret that they don't know. But we've come to find out years later that we think that they do. And we think her sister, who caretakes for her mother, we think she's sending those letters back. She does her bills. She does X, Y, and Z.
It's a different sister, not the one I met.
Right. This is the sister that people said I looked like. She's the caregiver. She's probably sending those letters back because she thinks you want money. I'm like, we don't want anything. All we really want is family medical history. And for her to just be like, I'm here. That's all. But the craziest piece of all of this is a best friend of mine from college got married. in this town, in this mansion. And it was a beautiful mansion. It's known to be haunted, super exciting to be there. The woman that was running the mansion, I walked in and I met her. And I was like, And this is obviously in the midst of all this. And she started talking to me and she's, I love your dress. I love your shoes. Oh my God. So we start talking. And of course, the wedding goes on. And the next thing that I know, she tells me, I said, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I said, you look so much like my mom. And I said, my mom's 65 and she looks like she's in her 40s. She doesn't. So I'm like, I'm not slamming you and being like, hey, you look like my old mom. I said, you're so pretty. You look so much like her. And she's like, oh, and I said, and it's kind of funny. I said, because we're kind of dealing with this right now. And I told her the story and she goes, that is so weird because we just went through something like this in my family where my one aunt passed away and we found this birth certificate and we found out that my other aunt has like a child from like, we don't even know where. And I said, oh, well, that's weird. I said, what's your aunt's name? And she told me and I went, oh my God, that's my grandma. I said, that child is my mother.
Wow.
And she went, wait, what? And I said, what's your last name? And she told me and I'm like, oh my God. And so right away, I called my mom, like, you're never going to believe this. So her and I were taking selfies and sending them to my mom. And I'm in turn showing her pictures of my mother. And she just was like, we forged a friendship with her.
Amazing.
And then I got the chills because, of course, the wedding's going on and my husband's looking for me. And my girlfriends are like, where's your wife at? And he's like, where's my wife? And they're like, she met somebody that thinks like her family here. And he's like, of course she did. Of course she did. So he just went about his business. But
she's kind of like her and one of the other sisters are, I don't want to say black sheep of the family, but they don't get invited to a whole lot of stuff. And she's
like your second cousin, right? This girl that I met at the mansion.
Yeah, and she's got a child, and I don't know if it's.
She was ostracized from her family, and so I think she feels for what's going on here, and she kind of knows, and so she embraced us. With the girl that I originally met, she called her and her mom, and they came over to her house, and they invited my mom over for lunch, and they took all these pictures out, and they basically were like, we are your family, we will recognize this, and the hell with everybody else that doesn't want to, we'll be your family. And my mom's not an emotional person, and I just saw her completely break down. Like, they're like, we love you, your family. And I'm like, that's all that we need. If they want to do this for us, but it was great. I mean, it gave her what she needed, I feel.
Yeah.
Still would like to know some medical history, but I still would love to be recognized. I mean, I kind of know where my mother is. She's in an assisted living place, I think, in where we're at. But do I go there and just, walk in and just, I don't want to give her a heart attack.
I'm like, you're going to give her a we can't do that because then that's going to be on us and then the family is really going to hate us. So I'm like, I don't know. We know like her health is a little dicey, but I always said, I'm like, I would just love to show up there and just be like, this is your daughter. You look at her and you look at my mom and you're like, whoa. I mean, I've never seen genes in a family. Like I said, that's so strong. But we don't want to rock the boat out of respect, right? But she also deserves to get what's coming to her. We've talked about this with our family, and some of our families...
Unless you have some ideas.
I mean, it's like treading lightly, You don't know how people are... And as you don't know how people are going to accept that. Are they going to be like, no, this is not even true?
When I reached out to my mother's side of the family, same situation. Her husband knew about me, but none of her kids did. And so, that's alarming. And, I get it, but I have no patience. So the day I figured out who they were, I had found them on Facebook in 5 minutes with the clues that my biological father gave me. Corey was like, Kendall, they might not know about you. You probably shouldn't. I waited. I think I paced around our condo for 3 hours and I was like, forget it. I got to reach out. I have to. I've waited 47 years. I'm not waiting any longer.
I'm 72. Let's go here.
It's like the jig's up, all right? Some of you know, some of you don't. I'm sorry, but too bad. I want her to get what's coming to her. And I feel like the universe has thrown so many, I'm sorry, but all these things that are happening to me for her, that's not happenstance. That's supposed to happen. And it's just, I mean, local sandwich shop. I'm sitting there one day when this all starts, and I'm like looking around because I'd been poking around on social media. And this guy sits next to me in a Panera, and it's crowded. He's with his wife having lunch. And I look over and I see the business name on his polo shirt because it was the summer. And I look over and I'm like, that's so funny. I told my friend that was with me at lunch, my coworker, I said, that's funny. That's my mom's brother. And she goes, how the hell did you even know that? I said, because yesterday I was going on social media and I had seen that he works for this company and it's hit. And I pulled up my phone. I was like, she goes, okay, so I mean, it's like that. The mansion, the girl that I meet at the restaurant that tells me about my family.
So many coincidences.
So many coincidences. And the last coincidence that happened the last year is that my godson, two best friends of ours were godson to their youngest son. And they had a party. Both her boys went through COVID with high school. They postponed everything, and basically they had a party. And we go to the graduation party, and I see my best friend's sister there. She had a boyfriend. She's divorced, whatever. I met him. Very nice guy. I find out a year and a half later that it's my mom's brother.
Wow.
We're at the party, and I said, and my girlfriend calls me. She goes, you know, it's really weird. Remember this story, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah. She goes, that guy is now dating my sister-in-law. She goes, I think you met him at the party. I said, yeah. She goes, I think that guy is your mom's brother. And I said, what? And she goes, I think it is. And so she goes, you told me all these stories about your mom and your family. I started looking at his last name, and then I started thinking about your mom. And then I thought, oh my God, I think that's your brother. It turns out it is. I met him, but I didn't know that at the time.
His wife they were in a really bad car accident probably a year and a half before that. And his wife died in the car accident.
She was killed instantly, and he was on life support, basically.
For a long time.
So when we figured all this out way after the accident, he was going through a bunch of legal things from the accident. I'm like, I don't really want to go there because that could really upset him. He's already dealt with the death of his wife, and now he's dating my friend's sister. I don't want to do that, but I had to tell my friend's sister. I had to call her, and I said, I don't want to put a burden on you. This is a very weird situation, but do you think he would be approachable about this? And she goes, I have to tell him I know you. I have to tell him this. And she did, and he was not accepting of it. And I've since been to 2 parties with him there, and he makes very clear that he will be outside at the party or elsewhere.
The only other thing that we know about my whole family is that the man she married was a gambler and spent a lot of their money. They got thrown out of their house with all their items and everything thrown into the street. So their life
did a very hard upbringing
as compared to me, you know. And okay, I'll give you that. A lot of people had hard lives. Now you guys are doing okay and whatever. So, I mean, like we said, we don't want anything. We just want to say hello.
And if you don't want us to be in your life, we're okay with that. But we just want you to know she's here. And I told her, I said, look, you dodged a bullet, right? They had a rough upbringing, and that's probably why the siblings are as close as they are, because they stuck together because of all of that. And it's really sad to hear what happened to them. But I said, look at how you turned out. Like, you have this wonderful older couple that wanted you, and they also adopted my uncle 10 years prior to my mom, and they were from separate families. So my mom had a brother, and now she has 6 other siblings. Can't you just embrace it? I mean, the world is sending me all of these signs, and it's almost like mocking me, like, Nicole, take this clue and go. And it's like, I'm trying, but I don't want to force it on people. Right. If that's not what they're ready for, and especially if some of them didn't even know about her. That's a tough pill to swallow, I feel like.
I don't remember. How old were you when everything went down for you, Kendall?
You mean when I found everybody? Yeah. 47. Yep. I found my biological father's family first in August, and literally that was August 23rd, and Labor Day is when my dad's son, Chris, the first person I connected with, called me and he's, are you sitting down? And I was like, no. And he said, I just found your birth mother. And I was like, what? How? You know, and he said, I kept pestering our dad, give us a clue, because my birth mother has a very common name, and it was going to be really difficult to find her. My dad remembered that my mother had a younger sister, 2 years younger, and everybody in the world, including the teachers at school, called her by a nickname instead of her real name. And my brother had already gone online before he called me that morning, and he had put in my birth mother's name and my aunt's name, and the first thing that shows up, obituary for my mother's father. And using that information while I'm talking to my brother, I'm like typing into Facebook, and I'm not kidding. In 5 minutes, I had found a woman with my birth mother's name who had a sister with that. And I was like, found him. I was like, and I mean, I lost my, I was like, oh my God, I'm talking to my brother on the phone, and he's like, calm down. What did you find? What did you find? And Corey's, meanwhile, he's upstairs asleep. I'm surprised I didn't wake him up. And so like literally that afternoon, I messaged because I could see that my birth mother had 3 children listed on Facebook. So that moment I was like, okay, I had 3 siblings from dad, and now I've got 3 siblings from my mom. I reached out to everybody at the same time. The sister that I'm really, really close to now, Stephanie, had privacy settings, so she didn't see my message, but my baby sister did, my half brother did, and my auntie. It was crazy how, quickly that all happened. But just like your situation, my half brother on that side really has never wanted to have much to do with me. I mean, he was polite at the beginning, and like he would text me, you know what I mean? And then his evil wife, and I'm going to keep that, and we're not going to edit that out. His evil wife finally, like last year, accused me of wanting money. And I'm like, you know what? I've never even hinted at it. Just because you're evil doesn't mean the rest of us are. Go on with your life. And so I don't have anything to do with them. They're really poisonous, I think, is the nice term to use.
No, I think you're right.
It's probably just as well. I mean, who has toxic relationships in their life? It's not beneficial anymore.
No.
And that's like with him, same thing. Like I'm about to see him, I think, on Wednesday, because it's my godson's 21st birthday, and he wants friends and families coming in from Arizona. So we're all going to meet up at this place, and I'm sure he'll be there, And it's like, I told my girlfriend and her husband, I said, I hope you don't think I'm going to cause some type of scene at the party, because you guys know me for 30 some years. I would never do that. And my girlfriend's like, no, I knew that right away. And her husband's like, I don't know. I kind of got worried, because he's like, what's Nicole going to do? And I was like, I would never do that. I wouldn't destroy our friendship over this. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but I'm not going to give up on it. And I feel like if I do see him, I'll just be like, listen, just give me a second. I understand where you're coming from. I just want to say hi. That's all I want. I don't want anything from you. I don't want this to be awkward, because over the next several years or whatever this looks like, you're probably going to still be with her, and my husband and I aren't going anywhere. This is our godchild. So like, we need to be around, and we have to be tolerant, or it can't be awkward every time I see you. Or
I can't even look for my father because he's not on the birth certificate.
Yeah.
It says,
it's redacted.
Have you thought about doing a DNA match just to see what you could find on your dad's side?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
One in me, or whatever.
No, I did that years and years ago, but I don't think that. I think I need to really update that and make it whatever.
Yeah, maybe she should do that, because everyone speculates who they think is the father, and they don't think it's her husband. Because someone's like, no, she was dating this other guy of a different nationality, and back then that was a no, and that's what they think that could be her dad. And she did that. What is it, 21andMe or 31andMe? I don't even know.
It might have been 21 with Ashley a long time ago.
She did that just to see what nationality she was, because that's how we were trying to put that together. But it didn't come up with that.
What did you use, and what did...
So we used both 23andMe and Ancestry, and Ancestry.com is where I made the match with both sides of the family, because I have since matched with my mother's daughter. And then, of course, I first matched with my father's son.
Okay.
And it's really cool. It shows them still to this day as my top matches, of course, because that makes sense. And my biological parents have never done the test, otherwise I'm sure they would be my top matches. But yeah, it's kind of amazing, and have found, it even tells you like, oh, this is probably your first cousin. This is probably your second, based
okay.
on the number. It's a crazy, I never even knew this terminology, but it's measured in centimorgans, which I didn't even know. I didn't even know what that was, but that's how they kind of try to figure out what level, how far down on your family tree these people are matches. But it's really cool. Yeah, my sister Stephanie, she's cute. She brags that she and I have a few more centimorgans than my half brother on my dad's side. It's cute. It's like,
that's so cute.
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing.
Yeah. So Kendall pokes me on the leg when he's got a question, so we don't ask questions at the same time. But I was literally going also to ask, have you done the DNA test? Because I think you're going to get some more answers out of that. I would say either retake the 23andMe or Ancestry or both, because some people do one or the other. And a lot of people are doing them not because they're looking for family, but just like you said, they want to find out about their ethnicity and they want to find out where exactly they're from. And the more and more people that take the test, obviously, then you're getting closer and closer and closer to where you're from. So ours, where we're from is updated, quite a bit, because initially, so I always thought growing up that I was German because we just had German last names on both sides. When I first did the test, it was really coming up like super, super, just United Kingdom, but more on the England side. And today it zoomed into Austria, Germany. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
because so many other people have.
I want to know too. I've never done it either, but I've always been told, your dad's German, I'm Italian. I'm like, okay, but what else is going on here? I would just love to know, and I'd love for her to know her dad. So that's the other component. What else are you besides what we think we know that we are?
But you have to promise to give us the results and come back on when you take the test and we'll see what
150%. If you're not tired of me already.
No. It's interesting. I guess I sort of assumed at the beginning, just because you went the more old school route, the private detective stuff, that you hadn't yet done the test, and so I think that's the next step.
It's amazing.
Ancestry will be then the next one for sure.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to wait for me to call it 21 or 31 and me. What is wrong with me? It's 23. I was like, either someone I was friends with was like, either you got to write a book about this or you have to blog about this. You have to put this somewhere, because this is just, my girlfriend used to say, she's like, you can't make this shit up. And I was like, you can't.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's kind of funny, twisty turny all the time. And I'm like, that's just weird.
I don't know. She doesn't take after me. I don't know.
Am I adopted?
No, unfortunately, you're not.
Although my mom used to say it all the time when I was little. He's like, you're adopted. I'm like, I don't think so, but okay. I'm like no one in my family, so we don't know.
I've been like this since she's been 2. Blah 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 blah.
I love it.
Look where it's gotten me in my lifetime. So you're here with these wonderful people.
Yeah. No, my parents used to always say the same about me. My dad used to say, Kendall, I wish you had one shy bone in your body. Just one. You know what I mean? Because I was always, I think talkative was the polite term they used for me.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. He gave me some old report cards not too long ago. I started flipping through them, and I just started laughing. And my husband's like, what are you laughing at? I'm like, just the comments on my report card. Talks too much. I'm like, true story.
One of those things when I went to the store, because she'd walk away and start talking to people.
Like my shtick was, hi, I'm in a cold. Do you want to be my friend?
Oh. I would always
danger. And I mean, stuff you could just never do today, but it's just so innocent, and but that's just how I've led my life, and that's how I will continue to lead it. So
you didn't end up in a van,
Oh, God. If I end up with a van and somebody's the side of the van says free candy, then you guys are not going to know where I went. But
that was my shtick, because my mother said that she would get so embarrassed because we'd be in a grocery store and I would just walk up to total strangers and ask, do you have candy that I could have? Just, begging people to get stuff out of their purses. It was just comical.
I would just vanish. We'd go to the mall and I would just start walking away. I would hide under the clothes rack. And one time at this mall by our house, I don't know, I probably was like 3, 4. My uncle and my mom and I were out, and I just walked away because I wanted to talk to somebody by the fitting room, some little boy that I probably thought was interesting. And they literally had like an APB out at the mall. Couldn't find me. She's
Screaming in Sears.
Yeah, in the Sears store, single mother in her 20s, looking for her toddler, about to freaking lose her mind. And I'm like, sorry. But she did have, they had those like, kind of like now, you know how you can buy a keychain that's like, it's like stretchy.
Springy,
and they had like these stretchy things. And she literally put like, I don't know if I had a harness or what.
It was a harness, and I did it for my other son too, because
So, things you could just never do today because DCFS would be called and she'd go to jail. But gotta love the 70s because they were like a brilliant time.
Yeah.
But she used to tell me, I'm like, you did not do that. She goes, oh, I did. Like, child abuse. She used to hold up the phone. She's like, here, give him a call. I'm like, yeah.
I love it.
Age of the 70s.
One other thing to think about with the DNA test is that you don't know who on your mother's side has taken one. And if you match with folks on there, that might bring some more legitimacy to the whole thing. Oh, okay. Well, so
okay.
That would be like talk to their dad or their mom or whatever and just, hey, I think this is legit.
Yeah. DNA can't lie.
No.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Kendall, what's your take on us wanting to go visit my grandma? Do you think that that's, and I'm not putting this on you to make the decision, but we really want to do it. I don't want to wait for her to die to show up at the wake. You know what I mean? No, they need to see each other face to face one more time in this lifetime. And I don't know how to broach that.
I agree. I've talked to a couple of other people that have been struggling with this kind of situation because of where their parents are. Often there are social workers that work in the facility, and I would definitely try to work with them because they often know the temperament. You know what I mean? Like, could maybe suggest, like the right time, the right, because I mean, what I've read is that there are times of the day that are better for these kinds of realizations and you know what I mean? That sort of thing. But boy, I wouldn't be able to keep myself from doing it, and
it's killing me.
I think
it's killing me. It's killing her. It's like, I just don't want to be the reason that someone dies.
Right.
I know it sounds dire for me to say that, but I mean, I don't think she has a great heart either. So like literally, I think her heart is kind of, So I'm like, I can't be the reason that that something happens to this woman. Like I can't.
What you could do, I think, and you've kind of already done it with your mother's sister, you could almost go under the guise of, I'm delivering flowers and, here's...
That's great. Well, I'm looking at facilities for my mother-in-law to move into.
There you go.
What's to say I'm not looking there?
That's right. You brought your mother along, for advice. There you go.
Right, that problem solved.
I don't want to say I'm sneaky, but I would do something like that just to get to, I've had recurring dreams about, she doesn't still work there, but my biological mother apparently used to work in like a cafe. And I have had this recurring dream that I just show up as a customer just to get to meet her without saying who I am. But
correct.
Yeah.
I perfected that already once, so I'm sure I can do it again. Actually, that'll be the third time because the wedding and then her sister's house. But
who doesn't love flowers, right? So like if you were delivering them and you got to speak to her for just a few seconds, it'd be kind of, I don't know.
It's like, here you go. Here are your flowers. Oh, by the way, I'm your granddaughter. Bye-bye.
Yep. Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I think it will be wonderful for your mother, Mary Ellen. I can't imagine what it must have been like for your mother or my mother to have to give a baby away. I mean, and for them, I'm sure there's a level of guilt and there's a stigma attached to it. And I feel like it could be really good for her.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I think. If the daughters have intercepted this, obviously they know and they don't want to put that on her. But I understand the guilt in that. I mean, I got pregnant, but here she is, unfortunately.
Yeah. We'll edit that out.
Edit that out. But I have a lot of understanding for all that because I know how it was way, way back then.
Yep.
I get it.
It was shameful. You didn't do that. And, it was the 50s. Like,
Well, it wasn't really good for me either at the time when I was either.
no, I mean, it probably carried on into the 70s. Wow.
My father said, you're getting married and that's it.
Mm-hmm. You know,
It turned out so well. So there was that.
the irony for my mother's situation is that she has gone on to be so accepting of like her children having children without being married, her grandchildren having children. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
in some ways, if she can accept their situations, I wish she could, relieve herself of that guilt,
Right.
Yeah.
You
But
would think that she could. I mean,
yeah,
generationally, you just get so exposed to stuff, like you just kind of get numb to it. Like like a mother that has 10 kids. The first one, it's like all the pictures, all the this. And by the time she gets to 9, she's like, peace out. And there are pictures and stuff because you're just exhausted and you just start to accept stuff like it doesn't have to always be one way or the other.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So, and when I've suggested that to my sister that I'm so close to, it just, I don't know. It's something my mother won't even talk to my sisters about. So she, the very first Christmas in 2017, because I'm just, I'm very gregarious and I was like, I just found all these people and I sent all these gifts. And my sisters were with my mother when I sent my baby sister lives next door to my mother. I sent the gifts to my sister and she, with my other sister, took the gifts to my mom. And apparently she picked it up, saw who it was from, set it aside, never acknowledged it to the girls and never opened it. And that was it. I'm like, she just, I don't talk about it.
That stinks. That makes me sad for you. You know what I mean? Just acknowledge it happened. So it's not his fault.
Right.
You have to be best friends with your son, but
nope.
Just acknowledge it. And he's giving you a kind gesture.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the polite thing would have been to say, oh, tell Kendall he didn't need to do that, or, thank you or something. But nothing, never even acknowledged the box. That's how deep rooted her denial.
Well, that's her suppressing all the guilt she has for what she did. It has nothing to do with you. Yeah. It's her feeling bad about what she did and why we're going to drudge the past up.
And that's the thing. It's time is not on our side. So, it might not be the best experience, Mary Ellen, but at least I think it'll give you some kind of closure,
Mm-hmm.
I agree. It's just all you want is like closure. Just be kind to people and get your story out there and just try to talk to people and see if you can get the closure that you're looking for. I mean, how cool is it that you grew up your whole life with a brother and now you have these 6 other siblings,
Yeah.
It's like a treasure that you just like uncovered. It's so interesting,
I was just going to say, Nicole, if you did end up killing her, would you go to the funeral?
You betcha. I would. Of course I would.
If there's no contact, you better bet we'll be there.
I told her it's going to be some Real Housewives situation. I'm like, it's going to be like a soap opera. We're going to have the big hats and the whole nine and just be like,
that's right.
Hi, ladies. Yeah. It's just things you fantasize about over time. Like you were saying about the cafe. I just always fantasize. My mom and I show up there. And that's why the way I live my life, I'm not going to have any regrets when I leave here. I did all the things I wanted to do and I'm not going to have any qualms. That's why that day I was like, we have to go to her house. We have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
At least you could see her if she never talks to you. And look how that turned out. I ended up talking to her.
But then we drifted apart because she didn't want anybody else to know that she was talking to me. Now and then I will text her, like I text her on her birthday and I texted her around Christmas and she got right back to me,
She just doesn't want the guilt of knowing. And I don't know if all of the siblings know now or how that's all unfolded because that's a piece that we really don't know. We're getting pieces of it, like hearsay, so we don't know. Maybe it's her guilt and that's why she backs off from her.
Yeah.
Next.
For sure. I just can't wait to see what happens next. I'm like, what's next in the story?
Of checking out the homes because you are checking out for your mother-in-law.
I am. It's true. We'd love to recap once all this kind of shakes out, especially with the DNA stuff. We'd like to circle back and let you know.
It's just shocking. So many people are doing it nowadays that I feel like the likelihood that you could find somebody on, even if it's it might just be a kernel, of possibility. But, there's so many people. Like, I'm shocked when I find matches. I got a new match, I think 2 or 3 days ago. It said
Wow.
sixth cousin. So I'm like, but if I needed to, I could, you know what I mean? I could maybe put those puzzle pieces together. But yeah, again, because I am such a secret in my mother's family, it's been roadblock after roadblock when I reach out to people because they don't even know I exist,
Right.
So they're like, she had another kid. And I'm like, yes. And then they probably are thinking, who is this crazy person writing? But it's DNA. I'm not making it up.
No.
But anyway.
Yeah, the DNA thing.
Yeah, we
Definitely
definitely have to. It's so funny
thing.
because you think that's the first place we would start, but I just kind of, like you said, I went old school with this PI. And it was from someone that told me about him, but it was funny because the information that he had given us, I mean, it was information he should not have disseminated to other people. It was from the DMV. So I'm like, I don't need people's social security numbers. This is so illegal, I feel. I don't want any of that. And he should have just redacted it all, and he didn't. But I'm like, I just need to know names and addresses, and I can work from there. I don't know.
Yeah, not trying to take somebody's identity.
No.
That's done enough these days. We don't need to go there.
Yeah, I've already had that done to me during COVID. I don't need to have that. No, thank you. And that's fun to fix too, by the way. I'm like,
yeah.
This has just been so great. I feel so fortunate that you're having us on here. And I know as soon as I told my mom, she's like, what? And I'm like, she's like, all right, let's do it. I'm like, you just have to, it's cathartic. Just do it.
It is.
Okay for you guys.
Say it again.
As long as it was okay for you guys.
Sure.
It's a lot to think about, so I'm really appreciative.
That's one of the fun things for us.
Right. So definitely stay in touch and let us know what's going on, and we'll go from there. But we do really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Well, thank you. We were excited today. We were sad that day. We're like, oh, there's a storm. I'm like, but I get it. We were just so chomping at the bit to talk to you. So
cool.
So we're excited. So thank you.
Every time we think we've heard it all on Family Twist, a story like Nicole's and Mary Ellen's comes along and reminds us just how many chapters we don't know in our own lives.
The courage it takes to seek the truth, even when you know it might hurt, is nothing short of inspiring. And Nicole, you're the ride or die detective daughter we all want in our corner.
Mary Ellen, thank you for sharing your heart with us. For anyone out there sitting with unanswered questions or buried secrets, you're not alone. There's healing in the hunt. And sometimes closure shows up in unexpected ways.
And if you're thinking about reaching out, doing a DNA test, writing that letter, or knocking on that door, you're not crazy, you're brave.
Don't forget, if this episode resonated with you, share it. Someone out there needs to hear it. And if you have a twisty, heart-tugging family tale to tell, we want to hear from you.
Until next time, remember, family secrets are the ultimate plot twist. The Family Twist podcast is presented by Savoir Faire Marketing Communications and produced by How the Cow Ate the Cabbage, LLC.